Hey everybody, Frank here, Godzilla Island of the Major Squad, with a comic review of Supermassive 2022. This is the Massive Verse crossover back from 2022. This is a one-shot. This was the first big crossover comic that we had. This sort of is the end of the phase one if you're going through the reading order that's online. Last we left off, I did our Radiant Red and Inferno Girl Red reviews to finish off that first phase of the Massive Verse, and this is sort of the transition into the next phase. There's also some issues from the Shift One-Shot that we got to cover, but let's talk about this crossover. This is a crossover that features, of course, Radiant Black, the one that started it all, Inferno Girl Red, and Rogue Sun, a new hero that we have not got to cover here on the channel just yet. He's coming in the next phase, so this is our little intro into him for the timeline here. Some really cool characters. As I've said in my Inferno Girl Red review, I absolutely loved Inferno Girl Red. Volume 1. Volume 2 is coming along. For the first issue, Erica had some issues with illustrating it. I mean, it's a big 120-something page collection of story that she's got to illustrate, and she has some issues with her hands, and they're trying to avoid that issue again, try to avoid any injuries, so they're kind of pacing it to avoid that and any further delays. So that is coming. Looking forward to that. I'm not sure where that's going to fall in the Massiveverse timeline, but absolutely looking forward to that. So yeah, for our first crossover event as a new Massiveverse reader, I've read Radiant Black, Inferno Girl Red, and Radiant Red, as I've said. Awesome crossover. We get to see Marshall's hijinks. Marshall is just such a fun character and fun host to the Radiant Black suit. Way different personality than Nathan was. He's really goofy. And then we have Cassia, and we're introduced to Marcus, who is our host of Rogue Sun. In this story, Inferno Girl Red ends up in the same universe as Radiant Black and Rogue Sun. Rogue Sun, we learn, he maintains the crossover of interdimensional beings and whatever comes into this realm, as he states. So he detects Cassia coming through while she's fighting one of her demon monsters from her universe. We don't quite know how she ends up there, but that's what happens. And he comes on site and he's like, yo, you gotta get out of here. Marshall's in the movie theater, and he gets told to meet up with her. And the story overall, they end up fighting a giant-sized kaiju, basically. Some really crazy action, some great shots. And overall, I love this crossover. I thought the characters blended so well. We saw some development from Marshall in here, and Cassia as well. Where their futures are going as superheroes. So let me dig into it now, and we'll go straight through it. I'll show you some of the awesome art that's in here, and we'll go over the plot. So like I said, it starts off in the woods. You have a deer here, and boom, Cassie just blows into the universe fighting this demon thing. It looks like it's got two heads. She gives it a punch and it goes flying in the forest. Meanwhile, nearby there were some of these tech thieves that Radiant Black and Marshall have dealt with in the past, where they charge their stolen alien tech off of basically Radiant Black. So they were detecting this energy search and they're like, let's go charge this. He gets attacked by the monster, seemingly killed. And that's when we go to Rogue Sun, who's in New Orleans, fighting one of his baddies, and he gets his baddie to stand down, and his chest lights up, which apparently lets him know that there's a bad guy nearby, and he takes off. Marshall's, like I said, in a movie theater with Nathan, who's on a date, and he gets the alert from the big robot in his chest that's come out of his chest, that's in his head, and he's like, hey, we have a threat. And he's like, hey, I'm in the middle of a Spider-Man vs. E.T. phone home crossover here, and I'm gonna have to do a reel change soon. Is it really that important? It is. So he leaves, and Rogue Sun's the first on scene to catch Inferno Girl, and he's like, hey, you gotta get out of here, this is not your universe, and he thinks she's the threat, but as she's about to take off to track down her demon, and she's tired of dealing with Rogue Sun's ego, that's when Marshall shows up and kind of freezes the two in a place. He's like, hey, I can't believe you started the crossover event without me. He's like, and you're right outside of my city, how rude. They kind of have a little banter back and forth. Cassie explains, hey, I was chasing a demon, I don't know how I ended up here. And then Marshall sees the techno thief, and he's like, hey, this is one of my guys, I'll go deal with it. And then it turns into this monster, and he's like, oh, maybe it's not my guy. And it just keeps growing. And he's like, listen, these guys, their stuff runs off our powers, do not hit them. But Rogue Sun is like, listen, I know what I'm doing, and he blasts him with one of his chest beams and basically supercharges it to 101%. And they get this huge blast of energy that comes out from it, and all three of them see the future. Marshall sees this invasion coming, Cassia sees this woman running through the alley being chased by demons, and then we see a tease of a green and blue Inferno girls or persons. I don't know what they're called right now. Inferno Girls, Inferno Girl. I don't know what there is to come. I don't know if we get answers in any other crossovers, the 2023 or 2024, and then Volume 2 is coming as well. And then Marcus, seemingly, it seems like he sees his death, maybe? I don't know. I'm assuming, yeah, that's his death and somebody taking over the Rogue Sun mantle, which we learn Marcus took over from his father. And they wake up and they can't transform anymore. They don't know where the techno thief monster has gone. So they leave the forest, head to a rental car company. Get some funny moments here. Marcus is checking. He's like, you cover monster attacks, right? And the guy's like, I'm sorry, what? And Marshall's kind of talking to Cassie outside, saying how he saw her future. And she's saying how she saw her future, and she's like, it looks good, you know. She's like, there's hope that there's going to be a future now, and I'm going to end up back home. So they're driving in the car, and they're getting reports that the monster's 400 miles away at this point, and they stop at a Waffle House, and Cassie is not familiar with it, and so the entire place is made of waffles, and Marshall goes yes, and Marcus is like, no. They just keep driving in this car, making stops. Marshall has a conversation with Marcus saying, listen, he's like, in the future, I see this big invasion coming. He's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it by myself. He's like, listen, he's like, you're not much younger than me, but if my dad, who was a drunk and abusive father, could be a hero, he's like, you can. He's like, anybody could be a hero. So they get reports that at this point, the monster's 30 miles away, so they step on it, and they're tired of this car. They get there, they just see this path of destruction, so Marshall's like, listen, we just got to disconnect these canisters off its back, and it'll power down, and we can actually take it. So they try distracting it. Marshall can't get near it. He's hitting it with a wrench, and this thing is just gnarly at this point. It's getting bigger. It's even bigger than before. Cassie jumps on its back, tries pulling the cables, doesn't do it. That's when she pulls out a crowbar, or it looks like a pipe or something, and she bursts one of the canisters. There's a huge explosion, and all the energy comes out from it. Some really absolutely cool shots, and they all get energized again. And this is when they go into their henshin. Now this is really cool. They all do their transformation. Marshall doesn't have a phrase he says when he transforms, but Rogue Sun shouts Rogue Sun, and Inferno Girl does Inferno Ignite. And boom, there's this huge, crazy centerfold thing. I've never seen anything like this before in a comic. Really awesome. Seeing this huge, it's like just, like Super Sentai. You got the explosion of colors in the background. Really gorgeous looking. Yeah, really fun seeing that henshin. And they start swinging, and their punches are still not doing anything. This thing's energy cells are broken, and you would think they lose energy from it, but no, they can't do anything. They try this railgun move with Marshall, and he's like, all right. He's like, I got a last ditch effort here. I'm going to try something. So he pulls out the giant robot out of his chest, and it begins fighting, but he's like, hey, I'm going to need more energy. I need you guys to help me. And they're like, last time we both shot it with our energy. We lost our powers, but this time they're like, all right, we have no other choice. Let's try it. And yeah, this giant robot gets super energized, like crazy Super Saiyan bursts over there, it looks like, and just does almost like an Ultraman like specium beam out of its chest here, blows up the Techno Thief monster zombie, and yeah, they are wiped, especially Marshall. He's like, I'm gonna pass out, and Rogue Sun's like, I'm not carrying him. Cassie's like, all right, I guess I'm gonna carry him. So they go to a nearby barn, they all say their goodbyes. Marcus tells Cassie never come back here, and Marshall's like, come on, you tell me that we can't combine our cool powers again for the railgun attack and the robot that gets super juice, and Cassie's like, well, next time the party's gonna be at my place. So maybe that teases what happens in the 2023 crossover. I don't know what has happened in that yet. And Marshall and Marcus have a little heart-to-heart. He's like, can I count on you if this invasion does come? And Marcus is kind of like, listen, if I learned something, you got to learn to count on yourself. And he leaves. Marshall is still tired. He passes out on the hay bale. Credits roll, and then we get our little post-credit here, where one of these little demon dogs is running in the grass. We hear alien threat has been neutralized after it gets stomped, and this is our first look at the dead Lucky. Really looking forward to reading this one too. For this phase, we got Rogue Sun, the Dead Lucky in this phase, the Radiant Pink, and of course Radiant Black, as well as Shift coming up. I really enjoyed this. I mean, here's a look at the team. I didn't get to say it at the beginning because I just wanted to get into it. We have Kyle Higgins, of course, was one of the writers. Ryan Parrott, Mac Broom, who you might know from Inferno Girl Red. He's also worked on the Ultraman comics with Kyle Higgins from Marvel. Francesco Mana did the art. Simon Regazzoni did pages 24 to 33 and 46 to 50. Marcello Casa, Abel, and Erica Durso did pages 19 to 21. She's Inferno Girl Red. We had a crazy, just Igor Monti doing colors, and Becca Carey. Just a crazy team on this. This is such an awesome crossover. So I can't wait to see what there is in the future for the Massiverse. Radiant Black's going to be the next thing I'm reading. I will be covering Shift on the channel as well very soon. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of the Massiverse so far. Where are you at? I started just at the beginning of this year, so I'm catching up, and I'm hoping to catch up very soon on everything. Thanks for watching.